Welcome to Excel tutorial part 2. In this tutorial, we will review entering data into Excel, formatting cells, and entering formulas in Excel. And we will also create a scatter plot and a trend line. Let's get started. So here we have a data set which I have partially entered so far. And just to give you information about the data set, it represents temperatures taken on two different thermometers. One is Celsius, another one a Fahrenheit thermometer, that were immersed in the same container of water. As the water in the container was heated, we recorded the temperature on both thermometers periodically for a total of 10 times. So what you will see over here is at the first time the temperature was taken, the reading from the Celsius versus the reading from the Fahrenheit temperature. So at that point in time, both of these temperatures were trying to predict basically the same temperature because they were dipped into the same container. And through this data set, we're going to try to determine if there's a relationship. And if so, can we predict, can we find out an equation that relates one from the other? And in doing so, we're going to learn many properties about how to use Excel. Just to give you a little bit of introduction about what I have done so far, I've clicked on one of the cells and typed my first column heading and did the same one on the other one. Just to give you a short example of that, let's just say temperature recorded from, let's say, Kelvin thermometer. Now notice when I entered how it doesn't look very nice. Up there you see the actual description, but here you only see like the first line, it gets cut off, or it may spill over to the other cells if you don't have anything. But what I did was click on the cell, do a right click, then go to Format Cells. You want to click on Alignment tab at the top and click on Wrap Text. Wrap Text. Okay, then you see everything is wrapped in one cell. And then what I did was I put my cursor between two rows, get that little arrow going, and press the mouse key and hold it down and drag it to make it as wide. You want to do it on the horizontally or vertically. I do the same on the top. So then I'm getting myself sufficient space basically to enter that information. So let me go ahead and finish entering the data. So I have 3 more to enter here. One is 164.4. The other 193.6. And I'm pressing enter between the data items. And the last one is 210.8. Okay, so all the data has been entered. Now, notice here 5.0 appears as 5.0, whereas if I enter in this cell a 5.0, if I press enter, it just makes it look like just a 5. So how did I get it to show the 0.0 if you had a more accurate measurement than just a 5? So what you do is you highlight any cells that you want to format, do a right click and go to Format Cells, select the Number tab at the top, and then again number on the left, and I chose 1 decimal place, so it'll display because my data only had 1 decimal place anyway. If you want to display up to 2 decimal places, just adjust it as you like and just click OK, and then from that point forward it will record your answers up to 10th decimal place there. Okay, so I don't really need any of that column, so at the moment I'm going to delete that. So I highlighted the entire column at the top, do a right click, and I'll just say delete. Okay, I have a hidden column there. We don't need that one. All right, now the other thing I'd like to show you is to put a column heading for the entire table. So first I'm going to widen the heading there. So I'd like to enter it into these 2 cells, and I'd like to center it after that. So first I'm going to show you how to merge cells. So highlight the cells that you'd like to combine, and at the top, again at the home ribbon, we have merge and center. So I'll just click on that once. If you want to split the cells again, you would click on that icon one more time, and now I click on the cell and I will type just the name of the data set. I'll just say lab data. And when you press enter, it appears in the cell, but again, it's not highlighted very nicely. It's not adjusted, the positioning. So let's go back to Format Cells. and alignment, a tab at the top. And this time I want the vertical one to be centered as well. Vertical center. Okay, and finally, to finish the formatting of the chart here, I will highlight the entire table. And at the top, once again, at the top ribbon, click on where you see the little grid sign and come on, select all borders to be highlighted and bordered. So we have lines through each cell, circling each cell. And there is a nice table that includes all the data that was collected in the lab. Now, before we go our graph, and we're going to do a scatter plot for this data set, let's just also review how to do a formula in Excel. So what I'd like to do is right now find the mean of all the data in the first column. So here I entered the label is going to be mean. And to enter a formula, you start with the equal sign. So put the equal sign. And we want to find the average. So I'm just going to type average. You open a parenthesis, highlight all the numbers that you want to average out. And then at that point, just close the parenthesis and press enter. So that's the average of all the numbers or all the Celsius temperatures recorded. And let's also find the standard deviation of all the numbers. So again, to enter a formula, you press equal sign and STDEV. And if you have any trouble, you're looking for a specific function, you can always go to the help and do a search to find out what you're looking for. Standard deviation is abbreviated in Excel with STDEV. And open parenthesis. Once again, highlight all the values, close parenthesis, and press enter. So we have the mean and standard deviation of the first data set. And let's say that you had several columns of data and you had to find the mean and standard deviation for each column. Instead of doing what we just did under every column, what you can do is just highlight those calculations, get your cursor at the corner where the little black plus sign appears, hold it down and drag it. This is your copy and paste. And it copies and pastes the values, in a logical way, in a smart way. So for example, if I just click in this cell right here, you would hope that it averaged these numbers, right? So basically it mimics whatever you did here for this column, it mimics it for the current column. And let's check. If I double click on the cell, it will show what it's really hidden in there. Average C4 through C13. Indeed, C4 is here, C13 is there. Indeed, the second one after the copy and paste, it did find the average of the new column. So it's really a nice feature. If you had many columns, you don't have to enter them one at a time. Just do it for the first column, drag to the right, you're going to get all of them done at the same time. Okay, now we're getting ready to create a graph. So I'm opening some space for that. And ultimately, we would like to determine the relationship between Fahrenheit and Celsius scales. So through this experimental data that we have gathered, the goal is when we're done with the graph and the trend line, we're going to try to answer the question, what is the relationship between Fahrenheit and Celsius scales? Okay, so to that end, we're going to start by plotting the data to see if even a relationship exists. So including the column headings, I'm highlighting the entire data set. And then next thing is to go to insert. Anytime you want to create a graph in Excel, go to insert. And right now we want to do a very rough scatter plot. So click on scatter. Gives you several choices. We just want the plain scatter with no lines joining them, just the points. So already it gives you a pretty nice looking graph in a matter of 2 strokes, as you can see, or 2 clicks. Now one thing is I'm going to clean this up a little bit. We don't really need this little legend on the right because the heading already shows us that. So I will go ahead and delete this to get more space so the graph displays nicely. And notice it takes the Y values automatically from your column and makes that the title of the graph, temperature recorded from Fahrenheit thermometer. Now, to be honest with you, it would be a bit, you can definitely go in there. If that's not what you wanted, you want to change the title, just double click on the title and it'll give you a chance to rewrite the title. So here I'm going to rename it. I'm going to say Fahrenheit versus Celsius temperatures. Again, many times you may find it acceptable just to keep that Y column there, but I just want to really highlight that we're trying to, do a relationship between Fahrenheit and Celsius. Now, in addition to that, I'm sure your chemistry professors or your science professors will, or even your statistics professors will always ask you to label your axes. So let's do that. So click anywhere on the chart. Notice on the top Chart Tools menu appears. So you can change the color of your dots for your scatter plot, but click on Layout. Okay? And there you will see one of the icons says Axis Titles. And I will start with the horizontal axis. And I want to select title will go below the axis. And then click anywhere in the chart once again. Axis titles. So this time go to vertical axis title. And I want that to appear horizontally as well. So it's going to go that, instead of writing up and down, it's going to write horizontally. Okay, now we can enter them. So by default, the first column that appears is going to be your x-axis, in this case, Celsius temperatures. And by default, the second one you have listed there is going to be your Y values. If for any reason that's not what you meant to do, you can always copy and paste them in the correct order before you even start the graph. So if you did not mean for Celsius to go on the x-axis, in this case, it really doesn't make a big difference. So we're just going to leave it as it is. So the y-axis title should be Fahrenheit temperatures. So we have our axes labeled, we have our title, and if I click on here and then go to just to the corner, you can make your chart. If you need to get that diagonal arrow so that you can change the size of it if you need to. And there are a few other formatting things you can do. Again, under Chart Tools, Format, you can select to put a nice border around it. You have shape outline, you have shape fill. You can try to make it as professional looking as you'd like to, and you can change font size. You can do all sorts of cosmetic things. But now let's get down to the more important stuff. The question was, is there a relationship between Fahrenheit and Celsius temperatures? Based on the data set that we're seeing here, based on the pattern, there definitely seems to be a relationship, right? Because clearly there seems to be a pattern. These points are not randomly scattered here. As one, it looks like they're almost on a straight line. Typically, experimental data is not going to be on a perfect straight line because there's always some error in measurement. So what you want to do is you want to find a line of best fit to approximate that relationship between the two variables. So even though the line was not going to go through all of them, there is something called a regression line or a trend line that will give you the line of best fit. So click on the points, then do a right click, then go to add a trend line. And this looks like definitely the points seem to be on a linear or a line. Points appear to have a linear pattern, but if they were more curved, you could try exponential or logarithmic fit. Most likely in your typical intro to science classes, in the beginning you will probably be using linear the most. Now let me first just do that, and then we'll come back to this menu in a minute. Okay, so there's our trend line right away. It gives you the line of best fit, and this is not just visually best fit, but it's mathematically it uses some equations so that these points between the point and the line, these distances are minimized. So this is indeed the best line you could possibly find. It minimizes the error between the gaps between the points and that line, the sum of all those squared errors. Okay, next thing you may want to do is, I'll just click on the chart one more time. Actually, click on the points. Okay, right there, I'm going to do a right click. Okay, click on the points and then do a right click, format the trend line. Okay, in addition, I will also go ahead and select display equation, check, display R squared, check. Depending on which class you're in, typically you may be asked to determine the equation of the line and also something called R square. So this is appearing really small. I'm going to try to maximize it a little bit or just change the font size by highlighting it, home screen, and let's just make it a little bit larger so we can actually read this. And if you can get the plus, the like vertical and horizontal arrows appearing, you can then drag it anywhere you like, so it's easier to read. So it's giving us two bits of information. Number one, y equals 1.79 roughly x plus 33. That's the equation of the line that connects Celsius temperatures to Fahrenheit temperatures, x being Celsius, y being the Fahrenheit temperature. So that's very important information. Second is giving you r squared. And without going into too much detail, in case you haven't yet taken statistics, just a very basic information about this is that the closer to 1, the better. And r squared usually is interpreted as a percentage, so that means 99.76% of the variation in Fahrenheit temperatures is being explained by Celsius temperatures. Again, the higher, the better, and the maximum you can ever have is 1 or 100%. So as you can see, the fit here is very, very well. And those of you who may be familiar with the actual formula is y equals 1.8x plus 32. So with the experimental data, we came really close to that. And one last thing I'd like to point out to you, because ultimately, most likely you're going to need to create a lab report. I'm just going to click on this, right click and copy. So now we can paste the graph. So just right click and paste it. So there we have it. Again, you can go to the corner of your graph. You can adjust the size as you like. If you can get that diagonal arrow, the white arrow appearing. And then just click somewhere to the right of the graph and press enter. So if you'd like to write around this, to create any kind of a document, refer to the graph. And also if you'd like to bring the table, you can go back to Excel, copy, right click, and then move to Word and paste. And once again, we will be able to change sizes of things. If this is too large of a font to have in a Word document, we can make it smaller. We can also, even in Word, we can change the heights of the rows or the width of the columns. We can just adjust those as needed. And you can play with it. You can tap the report and so forth. And that concludes our session on using Excel to create a scatter plot, or Excel tutorial part 2.